Here we are on another mandala lesson. This one I'm using inks and pretty much inks that are going to eventually bleed through. And we use that to our advantage at this point, but it also will demonstrate how those things work. So I have a vintage letter. This is scrapbooking paper. It looks like an old letter. I won't be covering the whole background with these papers this time. This is an old military letter. I get my supply from my friend Bill, who sells at antique fairs, and he's also an artist. It's really fun to talk to him. He covers chairs with collage papers, actually vintage magazine images, covers the whole thing. He also does some assemblages and really cool stuff. Just going to lay these out. Just going to go with that, totally random, and glue it down. I'm actually going to stop here and I'll come back when it's all done because you've seen this part before. Okay, so collage papers all adhered. My next step, I'm doing a stamp with this silicone pot holder, and I really liked the honeycomb pattern that was on it. I picked it up at the grocery store, and I've never used it as an actual pot holder, but I do have another one because it is good to hold things on my desk and keep them from sliding around. So that wasn't a super thick layer. Let's see. There we go. And this is just straight up some dried paint. Paint. I didn't mix it with anything, no mediums, no retardant or anything. It's just straight up paint because I wanted it to be more opaque to add some texture. And then this one is shelf liner. And this comes in a lot of different textures. I'm doing the same thing with that. And again, straight up acrylic paint. There's nothing mixed with it, just brushing it right on with a flat brush. And I already have some texture that way. And there's no plan here. Anything goes. Anything goes, and that's why I keep saying it's okay, it's fine, don't stress. Some sort of thing happens and you didn't expect it, then you work around it, you work with it, and a lot of times it ends up being your favorite thing. A lot of these things end up getting covered up where you can only see part of it. So don't ever judge what you see at any given point until you're totally done, and then you are the one who decides when it's done. Okay, so I'm also going to add some color with a color wash. And I did mix the retardant with this, and yes, again, I will be using the dryer, the heat gun later to get that to speed up. And the reason that I do that, see, this one is already dry. It just dries really fast, and you want a little bit of time to work with it. And that's why sometimes we add at least just water. When you're doing washes like this and you want to be able to move it around and keep it kind of transparent, you don't have to have it transparent. See, I'm picking up a little bit of that, and it ended up streaking. I didn't expect that, but then I get some color mixing, so that adds interest and variation. So the size I've been using for most of these pieces are 9 by 12. Most of them, one of them I used an 8 by 10, but just to give you an idea for scale, if you did a 5 by 7 piece, it wouldn't take as long to cover with paper completely. But when you're talking about filling with color wash or that sort of thing, the time is kind of negligible from size to size. But then the time to draw your mandala, it would probably be bigger if you're using a larger artboard or watercolor paper or whatever. Probably, but not necessarily. You could add different things to it. And you don't always have to remove paint to get the texture. You could leave it more opaque if you want. It doesn't matter. And I say it doesn't matter, you know, it's up to you. It's your art. So I'm saying that just because I do it doesn't mean it's a rule. Using some lilac. As far as plans go, I do, for this project, want to cover all of the surfaces with some sort of coating. You know, whether I get it all covered in acrylic paint or not, I want to make sure that the whole thing is sealed up, because I want to show you how alcohol ink works. And personally, I prefer the way that alcohol ink behaves on a sealed surface like acrylic. Or if I used I could paint over matte medium on top. Because really, paint is just matte medium or gloss medium, whatever finish you're using, with the colorant. So you can also use your paint as glue. See, that's still wet, so I can pick up some, that's picking up some of that, and I can put it down here. This is also mixed with the retardant, so you're going to see more brush strokes. So I get a chance to work with it and manipulate it. So I laid down the color that was kind of thick, scraped over it. So then you can see this part peeking out that I stamped earlier. So I want to do some more stamping. It's still pretty wet because I used that retardant on it. I'm going to dry just this little section. And this came around a piece of fruit. I think a Japanese apple. It's a lot like a pear, kind of a mix between a pear and an apple. And my son handed it to me. He said, "Here, Mommy, you can use this for art." He's been saying that for many, many, many years now, and he's come up with some really cool things for me to use in my artwork. So the green, there's enough green in this, more green than blue, that if I didn't wait until this mulberry color was dry, then it would probably mix in a way that I wouldn't be thrilled about. But as you can see, I didn't have to wait very long. And then just the little bit of paint here and moving around, it allows you to see that background too. So because this is mixed up with the retardant, I have time to blend this. If that were just straight up paint, I would still have the streaks. And I just didn't particularly feel like having that at the time. So then I have choices. But if you end up just trying it with just the dry paint and you like the streaks, or if you end up saying, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about that now, it'll all turn out just great in the end. So, you know, it's a process. Just enjoy it as you go, because I'm really enjoying how I can see this background color underneath the green, teal green. And it's catching on the papers, which creates more pattern and texture. In college, I also used to watch, or maybe it was after college, What Not to Wear, Color, Pattern, Texture, Shine. Those were the things that you want to create in an outfit, or that they emphasized going into the ideal outfit. I don't always add the shine. It might be there in some element or another, but the color, pattern, texture definitely still applies to a piece of art. So instead of creating an art ensemble that you would put on your body, you're doing it on canvas at this point. I'm going to go ahead and dry this and come right back.